Hey everyone, this is Dr. Casey Johnson. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I know you're going to love today's episode with Robyn Meierotto. Robyn is doing some amazing work and has an incredible story, so I'm excited to have her on to share a story with you guys. If you've been loving the Unlock Wellness podcast, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. The Unlock Wellness podcast is now on patreon.com. Patreon is an amazing site that allows you to support your favorite podcasts. You can learn more by going to patreon.com/Dr. Casey Johnson. Also, be sure to follow me on social media to keep up with the latest podcast episodes. The best way to connect with me is on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. My username across the board is at Dr. Casey Johnson. That's DrKaseyJohnson. You can also check out my website at drcaseyjohnson.com. It has all of the past podcast episodes and more information about each guest under the Listen tab. While you're on my site, be sure to check out the Shop tab where you can check out my first book of my Healthy Children's Book series and learn about the Unlock Wellness Project, which supplies a wellness bag to a child in need for each book purchased. Thank you again for listening. I hope this episode leaves you feeling inspired to start making positive changes to your health. Now it's time for today's episode. I hope you love my conversation with Robyn Meierotto. Welcome to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I'm Dr. Casey and excited for today's guest. I'm here with Robyn Meierotto, and Robyn is an integrative nutrition health coach who has transformed her life as well. And she's lost 80 pounds on a plant-based diet and is just doing some amazing work. So I'm excited to have her on to share a story with you guys. But Robyn, thank you so much for taking time to come on. I'm excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm flattered to be here.
No, I mean, your story is awesome. And, quick shout out to Jeff Mayer. He connected us and he's a really great guy.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. How did you meet Jeff?
Just through some online vegan platforms, really. And I had started doing some triathlon training. And so since he's a runner, sort of got to know each other a little bit that way. But yeah, mostly in the online vegan space, which is where most of my vegan friends are.
Hey, listen, I feel like for most people that are vegan, that's where like all their friends are.
Right.
I sent this meme to my friend the other day. I saw it on Instagram and it made me laugh. It's like just sitting here with all my vegan friends and like he's just sitting at a big table by himself, like drinking a kombucha. But no, right. Most of my vegan friends are online too, so it's okay.
Right. Yeah. Being in Iowa, right, and farm country, it's just not a normal occurrence to find vegan people here. So
I totally understand. But yeah, no. So we'll jump into your backstory, Robyn. First off, where you're from, and like if you're from Iowa, and then what's your health and wellness look like from a younger age, just so we can understand how you've evolved over time.
Sure. Yes, I am born and raised in Iowa, and so sort of grew up, like I said, in a small farming group of farming communities, and I still live very close to where I grew up, and so still where I live is highly corn, soybeans, and farm animals everywhere that we're surrounded with. So veganism is not the norm here at all. And I grew up in sort of a normal middle-class family with both parents working out of the home. I have 3 sisters and a brother, so a fairly decent-sized family. But sort of grew up with my mom cooked home-cooked meals a lot, even though she worked outside of the home, but it was sort of like a standard American, diet: meat, potatoes, and then sort of a lot of processed foods at times too. And over, my childhood, I was overweight quite a lot of my childhood and early adult life. And I would say I probably tried almost everything, over the course of those years to lose weight, and sort of up and down in my weight loss, over time. And I got married very young at 19. And then about 5 years later, we had our first child, and had we have 3 kids in total. And, over that time I gained weight, lost a little. And then by the time my daughter was born, I was over 210 pounds by the time I actually weighed myself. I'm not sure exactly where, I had ended up, but I know it's at least that much. And when she was about a year old, I was outside playing with her, and just sort of like really hit me, like, I want to be a healthy example, not just for her, but for my boys as well. That, for me, as growing up as a girl and not having the best body image because I was overweight and not looking like the other girls around me or whatever, that I just wanted to show her a better example of a healthy lifestyle and try to be a good example for her.
That's amazing. Because I mean, that, like you said, like, that's hard. I mean, it's hard growing up in that age, just in general. And whenever you're like worried about that, and, it messes with your confidence, and
Right.
can't really enjoy yourself because you're constantly like in your own head. And like, I mean, that's a real struggle. And then that's awesome that you wanted to be a positive example for her, so she could really see for herself, like, what true health can look like.
Right. And she's 11, going on 16 right now. She's 11 right now. She's at a really, important time, and I continue to try to be that for her, and stay close to her, and, try to show her healthy examples, and that I'm, working, exercising, eating healthy, whatever. So she sees that, even if she's not doing it so much herself, that she gets that example in her head.
She has a new normal.
Right.
Yeah.
And both her dad and I came from families that are not the healthiest. I mean, they have heart, high blood pressure, there's cancer, diabetes. My sister has type 1 diabetes. And so there's all those things, like, really sort of form that, like, I need this to be of importance for myself and for my family, to have that, to start in on that. Because, like I said, when I sort of veered off path here, but when she was 1, that's when I really decided, like, I need to take charge of my health. And so where I started out with was Weight Watchers and going to meetings, because a friend had asked me to go with her. And I wasn't wild about the idea, but, I thought, fine, I'll go. And actually ended up losing almost 50 pounds.
That's awesome.
Through Weight Watchers. And then I sort of stayed at that weight for a good number of years. And finally I found myself, like, going back into old habits, like, sort of binging on things that weren't healthy for me, eating a lot of packaged and processed foods, but as long as I stayed at a certain weight, then I didn't feel like I had a problem. But then I was still having headaches daily, a lot of body aches, and, like I said, just not having the healthiest of habits. And so I decided at that time that I was going to try, cutting out the processed things from my diet. And that's when I started more of a whole foods diet. And then soon after, I added in that vegan component after my ex-husband and I watched Forks Over Knives one night, and I was just, like, blown away, and thought, this is something, why don't we try this, if it feels good, whatever, and then it just sort of stuck from there. And that was, about 4 years ago, almost, coming up. So
I love that. And with the Weight Watchers thing, obviously, we we both know that, I mean, now obviously like that's not a sustainable option, but I mean, it was an important part of your journey, like a stepping stone, right? Because
Right.
even though you weren't, it's not really technically like, not all of it's very, very healthy, but at least it started you, it created like an initial awareness that you probably didn't have before. But then obviously with the other Weight Watcher stuff, it's basically like by points, right? So you could eat like a donut and have enough points for the rest of the day, you know what I mean? So,
Right.
but it was that initial awareness.
Right. And it was about, they are fairly good at showing you healthy habits, and a big thing for me was portion control, because I didn't abide by that at all, and it was just like I became more aware of how much I was eating and like what a normal portion is, which, a lot of Americans are not aware of that because of how things are portioned out in restaurants, right? That a lot of people just eat what's in front of them and don't consider like what is actually going into their body. So that was a big thing for me. And then once I started, taking out the processed things, it really helped with, like cravings. And like I said, like I can't say the last time I've actually had a headache,
Awesome.
like I used to have. But I was, consuming a lot of caffeine and a lot of sugar and, like I said, a lot of excess processed things. So body aches were much less too, and I'm going on 44 here in a few months. So I feel a lot better now than I ever did in my 20s, which is kind of cool.
that is cool. So I mean, like, so you guys watched Forks Over Knives, which if you guys are listening and you've never watched that, like go watch that tonight and then shoot me a message and tell me you watched it and make me happy, because it's so great. And it's really crazy, Robyn, like how many people give like their success to doing this to watching that documentary. Like it's crazy the impact that it's had. I mean, I would say almost everybody that's lost a significant amount of weight that's been on here has been because of Forks Over Knives. Like it's so awesome. So that's cool. So like, once you watched that, did you jump in all in like that next day, or was it just a process of, okay, we're going to cut out this and then maybe next week we cut out this? Like, how did it look for you once you had the information, it made sense? Like, where did you guys go from there?
It was fairly immediate. I had already cut out dairy from my diet a few years ahead of that because I was having an intolerance with it. And so that part, was easy transitioning. And I had done a bodybuilding competition a few years, or about a year ahead of that. And so I was eating a lot of egg whites, chicken, things like that. And so, but I'm not one of those people that like craved meat, and so, probably the last thing I took out was egg whites, and that really wasn't hard, but otherwise it was pretty much just straight into it. And to me, it wasn't hard to have to do that. I felt really good right away, and I thought this isn't going to be that hard for me. I know that someone that might be a big meat eater, or, poultry or seafood or whatever, that I can see that it might be a hard transition. But for me, it didn't feel like it was a struggle, and I really enjoyed it.
That's awesome. What was some of the, I guess, kind of immediate effects that you felt? Like, do you remember the first time you were just maybe sitting there and it's like, man, I feel really good, or I have a lot of energy, or I'm dropping weight? Like, was there like a moment like that to where you noticed a big difference pretty soon after?
I think the biggest thing for me was digestion, and like my skin and feeling a little more, like you said, with energy. And I could even see, and I've heard some other people say this too, but one thing I noticed soon after was how more clear my eyes looked. The color was brighter, and I think it showed in my skin as well, But I think digestion was probably the biggest, because I had already been eating a lot of whole foods, but I think cutting out the meat protein really helped for me.
Yeah. Were you dealing with like anything specific with digestion, or just overall? Was it like a condition like IBS or Crohn's or anything like that? Or just
No,
kind of
no,
overall?
not at all. Nothing like that. It was just like, it was just more regular,
Yeah.
and yeah, so.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I mean, I love that. And like you were talking earlier about like the energy aspect of it, it's cool to break the cycle of you're tired, so you eat something that maybe has a lot of sugar or oils that kind of brings you up for a second, and then you drop, and then you drink coffee, and then it's just like this cycle of like, how can I get more energy, and then crash, and then get more energy? Like it's not,
Right.
like that's not a sustainable cycle. And it's cool to watch how people, change the way they eat, start adding in more plants and whole food plant-based foods, and all of a sudden it's just like you're a superhuman, right? Like you're in,
Right.
like through the chart, like you wake up feeling energetic. Like you don't, it's cool too. And I think it's interesting, and I need to like do more research on it, because I've seen a lot of stuff talking about like how when you eat like that and you really increase like the whole foods, the vegetables, the fruits, like you actually you don't have to physically have as much sleep. Like you don't need as much sleep as you did before, which I think is super interesting. And then obviously when you when you have that, you can wake up feeling like super energetic, like you don't feel the need to have to chug a bunch of coffee or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I just think it's really interesting.
Yeah, because I get up very early and do my workouts. And so right now I work out from home, but I used to be at the gym by 5:00, and it's a half-hour drive. And so I was up really early, but it was always, I didn't feel like just dead at the end of the day.
Right.
Like before I'd be mid-afternoon and I'd be ready for a nap, and it's just, it hasn't been like that since. And I remember like when I first started, I was like eating all this fruit, which before, and a lot of people even now they're almost scared of eating fruit because
Right.
of the sugar or, the carbs, and I just remember eating it because I was in that same space too, where I felt that way. I was like, oh, I can't eat that. That's, has too many carbs. But I remember like one time going on, my son used to play traveling baseball. And so we packed all this food, and I was eating an apple, and it was just like, this apple is so good. It's like I'm just found more enjoyment in food again, I think. And just the simpleness of everything, and the taste, and trying more foods, because there are some things I just didn't ever try. And so I was trying more things. So
yeah, it's well, the first thing you said that I liked it, you were just talking about how the simplicity of food just tastes so good. And it's like the changes that your taste buds will make is so crazy. Like once you've done this for a few weeks, and it's really cool, because it's like once you do that, all of the processed stuff tastes really bad, and like you can taste the fakeness of it. It's like
exactly.
I don't crave a lot of junk food, and like friends or family might joke with me sometimes, like, oh, don't you want this, or like this cake or cookie? I'm like, I really don't. Like I'm not struggling, not eating that, because I don't crave it at all. Like it's just how like my taste buds are now, and anybody can get to that point. It's just a few weeks of consistency, and you'll be there. The body is smart.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
But it's like, just hold on, and you can get there.
Right. Because I can even now, if I do have some processed things, and if I continue down that path, like even for a few days, like how fast like your body craves that.
Yeah.
But then once you go back, and how much different you feel, and how easily the cravings go away once you start trying to get that out of your diet.
Exactly.
It's amazing how the body's amazing.
No, it really, and it's like your body wants like the most natural resources possible, like all the time. And I mean, just kind of off topic example, like I use a lot of like there's products that I make now with like essential oils, or like I try to steer clear of a lot of like the chemical products and things, just because, we're trying to decrease the toxicities in our home as well. And
Right.
it's just, I can tell, like if I go into a room that maybe uses like the air freshener sprays, or a car has like an air freshener, or my husband bought trash bags the other day, and we never buy like the scented kind. I can't deal with it. Like when I was pregnant, that was a huge like, I'm gonna throw up kind of thing. But like, but we don't buy that just because we don't want to have to. But he accidentally bought scented trash bags, and like right now they're driving me insane. Like they're getting thrown out. Like I smell it when I open the pantry. I'm about to put them in the garage and go buy new ones. But like it's just stuff like that. Like I feel like an instant headache coming because my body's like rejecting it, because I'm not around that all the time now.
Right.
And it's just like it's cool though, because your body just wants to be as like in a pure state as possible. And once you start to detox it out, you notice it a lot quicker.
Right. It tells you what it wants. That's for sure. Yeah.
No, but that's cool. And I also liked what you said about wanting to try different foods. I think people get caught up in they think it's restrictive, or they don't want to just eat boring salads. And it's like there's so much more. I feel like we eat more creatively now. And if you really think about what your diet looked like as somebody that didn't eat whole food plant-based, and you ate like animal products and things, like you were still recycling those same meals over and over, right? Like you had your night and your pizza night and your burger night. It's the same thing. Like you have meals that you kind of cling on to. It's not like you were getting like crazy creative in the kitchen with all these meats and dairy. Like you were eating the same thing. Like, let's be real.
Right. Exactly. Oh yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah. But like, so as you started to make those changes, Robyn, how did it affect you? Not only obviously, you obviously started to lose a lot of weight. Well, first off, before I jump into what I was going to say, how quickly did weight start to drop once you switched over to whole food plant-based?
I had lost a majority of my weight before I actually went plant-based.
Gotcha.
And so I probably lost another 10 pounds after, and I stayed at a fairly steady weight for a while, but I did notice, like I could tell a difference in my midsection. Mostly it seems like that's where I noticed changes first. Like when I went to cutting out processed food, like it was amazing, the change. And so it was a similar thing when I went plant-based, is that just all the clean foods, I could notice less inflammation, in my midsection, and bloating and stuff like that. So yeah, but over, I'd say that first 6 months to a year, I probably had taken off another 10 pounds over time.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think the big thing with it is, first off, sustainable weight loss, because like you were talking about, like you were saying, like you were already starting to gain a little bit of weight back on Weight Watchers because of the processed food, and it's easy to jump off path with things like that. And then you actually created a lifestyle change. So it wasn't just like you're going to lose weight and keep it off for a few months. Like you've created a way to keep it off for, potentially ever. Right. So I think that's cool. And I think if you guys are listening and if you've been dealing with like a weight plateau or like a trouble area, like Robyn was talking about her midsection, like I've never heard of a way to fix those and keep it off for like ever by implementing this way of eating. I just haven't. And like, I've heard so many forms of dieting and eating, and I feel like this is more of a lifestyle change, not a diet, but
exactly.
It's cool to see how lifelong changes can be made by implementing it.
Right.
But yeah, so you started to make those changes. How did you have a large impact? Did it have a large impact on like your confidence and just overall thoughts and mindset? Because, you were talking about how you grew up, you were always kind of overweight. That, having to deal with that as a younger kid is obviously going to mess with your confidence and just thoughts long term. So did you feel like it impacted that at all? Or do you know what I mean? Did it have a positive impact on that as well?
Yeah, I definitely think it did. I'm I'm an introvert at heart. But so it's just hard for me to really like put myself out there a lot of times. But it's definitely gotten much better. Like I said, I did the fitness competition about
That's huge. That is
was
literally the definition of putting yourself out there.
right. And that was like a goal I had before my 40th birthday. And so I did that. And that was, like you said, it was just huge for me to be able to do that. And that was like a huge boost of confidence for me. Just, and not that I even really did well, but it was just like I proved to myself that I could follow the fitness routine, the on with my nutrition, and actually go out there on stage and do what I did. And so that was a big boost for me. And then just sort of proving to myself, even after that, that I could, the things I could do that I never thought I'd be able to do before. And so that really helped. And I can't remember, I was going to say something that now I lost my train of thought. But
that's all right.
Yeah, I definitely think that has helped. But I did notice, I know what I was going to say is that you're talking about, as far as confidence or dealing with, being overweight when I was younger. And I think that one thing I did notice was, and I've since learned a lot about this, like when I was taking my integrative nutrition courses and with dealing with other clients, is that, I lost all this weight and I have kept it off for the most part, but like there's a lot that came about, like in realizations, like dealing with the inner stuff, that why I had gained weight, and, some of it was eating, but I was eating for a reason, it's just like emotional eating, and sort of sitting with, you get the weight off and the hard part is keeping it off,
right.
And so you have to really, I think where a lot of people can fail is that they don't deal with that inner stuff to figure out why they're going back into old habits. And so you have to sort of be real with yourself and be like, okay, I'm going back into old unhealthy habits. What is causing me to do this? What's going on in my life right now that's not working for me, or what am I not dealing with? And so, like I said, with dealing with myself and with with some of my clients, you start to see those patterns where they get to a certain point where they're successful, and then they sort of slide back a little bit, and you start seeing them do that. And I see a lot of myself in some of these people, so that's really been a growth process too, and seeing that, and sort of, like I said, doing a lot of inner work to think about those things. So
yeah, no, I love that. And that's very true though. That's very true. I mean, yeah. And I mean, there's so many people I talk to that say very similar things to that, because it's like, you can't just lose weight and not deal with the stuff that you, that you might be kind of suppressing back a little bit. Like
right.
it's just, they go hand in hand, or like, it's at least make it sustainable goes hand in hand. Like you could ignore all of those things and lose a couple of pounds to go to the beach, right?
Right.
You're gonna bounce right back because you're not dealing with the deep rooted issues. So no, I love that. And it's cool that you have the experience to share with your clients. It's not just, I read this, take my word for it. Like you've lived it. And I love that. So when did you get your certification through Integrative Nutrition, and what made you want to do that to really help other people?
Well, I had previously gotten a couple other nutrition certifications. After I had done my fitness show, I was really just amazed of what nutrition could do for the body. I had done all this stuff with myself, but just sort of seeing that whole process and working with a coach through that, I really got interested in thinking maybe this is what I wanted to do as well for myself and to help other people in the process. And so I had done a precision nutrition certification in nutrition and started coaching some online. sorry, I'm losing my voice.
Oh, you're okay.
But and then had kept going back, looking at the integrative nutrition certification, like checking out the program, and really wanted to do it. And I was trying to decide if I wanted to make that financial and time decision to go into that. And I thought, well, I had this other certification, but the whole holistic thought process with how they teach had always intrigued me. And I saw that with, sort of going through the process myself, how that, sort of saw the inkling of how that all worked. And so I started in November, which was right around my birthday of, 2016. And then I graduated in November 2017 with that certification. And yeah, so I really learned a lot about myself through that, going through that, because you're sort of going through the program and learning a lot about yourself in the process. And they're really good. You have some mentors that you're working with and doing some online talking with other students and former students that have their own businesses, and so it's really enlightening to go through that, and highly recommend it to anyone, because I think that was really impactful for me. And then I also did a hormonal health course with them after that, which was really interesting because I, had been dealing with a few thyroid issues, and I just got this huge interest in hormonal health because I had lost my period for a while after my competition and took a year to get it back. And I was just like, the more reading I did about all of that and research and stuff, it was just like, it's such an intricate system, that was just really interesting to me to get to study about it. And it's almost overwhelming how many intricacies there are to it.
That's really cool. As far as like the getting your certification overall, what do you think your biggest takeaway was from it? Because you were just talking about how much of a learning process it was for you just overall. Like, what do you think was the most important thing that you took away?
I think probably the most important thing is, sort of what we talked about earlier, is that you can implement all the diet strategies or food, exercise, restriction, whatever that you want, but it's really, you've got to deal with all the things that are surrounding you. Say it's friends, family, past traumas, or something like that, or things that are happening right now in your life that are not working for you, that are causing you stress or pain, that you have to deal with all these outside things that are causing you internal conflict before you can really be successful if you want to keep weight off or be successful in keeping along a healthy path. You can do all these things, but it's really all that working with the internal stuff before you can truly be successful with that.
No, I love that. And how has your transformation of your health, how has it impacted your family life and your kids? Like, have they implemented the ways that you eat as well, or is that still a process for them, or how has it affected your kids overall?
It's definitely still a process for them. I don't feel like for anyone it's healthy to badger them into a certain way of eating. But, I make these things available to them, and, they see what I have, what I'm showing them, and hopefully at some point in time, they'll transition into a healthy way of eating that's right for them.
Right.
Probably my daughter is a little more, she's a little more open to things like that. She sees a lot more of what I'm doing. My boys are 19 and 16, and so it's sort of like they're
harder, right?
Yeah, it definitely
it's not
is.
Like they're like little babies and like you can kind of just create, like they've already had, they've already been eating a certain way for so long,
right?
Just like anybody else, right? It's just like that process,
right? But one thing I have noticed is that they're much more aware of how different foods make them feel.
That's cool.
And so that's been a big impact, I feel like, because that would have never been a realization before, because now, like my oldest can talk to me and say, something's not feeling right. I think it's because I've been eating a certain way, So that's really good to see that they're aware of that and they want to have healthier options so they can feel their best.
Yeah. And you're like planting that seed at a young age, because I mean, like when you were 19, Robyn, like you had never heard of plant-based eating, like just,
Right.
and they know about it at like such a younger age. So it's not like a weird thing. Like it's just, they're not there yet. So
right.
So I think that's cool. It's just planting that seed at a younger age, and they have a better chance of going that direction because they're aware of it.
Right. And they're not afraid to try like certain things, like like I make those, like say vegan meat replacement options and stuff like that available to them, because that's an easy thing for teenage boys, to sort of transition into, and they're pretty open to that kind of thing, and doing that, which makes, as a big impact on the whole farming, the factory farming thing. So
definitely. Yeah. No, I love all of that, Robyn. And I love all the work you're doing as well. And I know you're going to be able to help a lot of people by just sharing your story. And obviously the more clients that you work with, just sharing the fact that you have that story to kind of help them with their path as well, I think it's going to be super effective because you've lived it. And I love everything that you're doing. And do you have anything that you are working on in the future that you just want to put out there and share? Or just continue to work with your clients, continue to put out more content?
Yeah, I'd like to continue working with clients online. And I'm also looking at developing a program for people local to me to do either individual or group programs, just to sort of start implementing ways for them to have healthier eating lifestyle and activity, and sort of give them ideas for meals, sort of slip in that vegan idea into their head, or more plant-based. Like I said, I live in a farming community where veganism is the odd thing, and so just making people more aware of what's available, how easy it is, the benefits, and so hopefully I'll be have these ideas in my head of what I want to do here locally, but hopefully that'll be coming to fruition.
That's great. I know. I love that. And no, I love that you're trying to make that transformation in your community, because like most people think of like where you live and as a farming community, they think, oh, fresh fruits and vegetables all day. Right. But most of it, like you were saying, it's basically corn and soy that they're feeding to the cattle. And that's the majority of it. Like places like that can be the hardest place to find healthier foods, which is pretty insane when you think about it.
Right. Yeah. Finding vegan options in the grocery store it's getting better. Definitely getting better. But it's still a little tough, and trying to sort of like, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding with, people that have grown up on farms, and they're trying to make a living with what they're doing. And so they're a little standoffish sometimes about like what I'm trying to say, like, don't eat meat, and so it's a little tougher here, but I think anybody can make it work wherever they're at. Just have to be a little more disciplined about it. So
for sure. You need to host like a movie night, like rent out like a local theater, play like Forks Over Knives,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Cowspiracy or something.
That would be great.
Probably make a lot of people angry at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I mean, yeah, that would be awesome though, because most people just don't know what they don't know. So
right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. But yeah, no, so Robyn, what is the best way for people to follow you on social media? That way they can keep up with everything that you're working on and just shoot you a message if they have questions?
Probably the platform I'm on most is Instagram, and it's just at Robyn Meierotto. And that's ROBYNMEIEROTTO. Like I said, that's where I share most of my, posts at, where I'm at most. I also have a business page on Facebook called Everyday Robyn, and I share a lot of similar stuff to what I have on my Instagram, but a little, sometimes a little different. So those are probably the two main places to get a hold of me at. And I'd love for anyone to send me a message if you have questions about anything, want help, encouragement, whatever, I'm ready to help. So
awesome. Yeah, no, I'll put both of those links in the show notes. That way people can just go click and give you an ad. And Robyn, just a closing question that I ask every guest. But if you just had one piece of advice for the audience, maybe it's something that's been your biggest takeaway through your wellness journey so far. But if you just had one piece of advice to give, what would it be?
I think always for me, when people ask, how do you do this, is that consistency is a huge thing. Consistency with your diet, consistency with, movement, whatever kind of exercise you can get in, just making it consistent, eating healthy, nourishing your body, sleep, which is always a struggle for me, but, and surrounding yourself with good people that are good for you, but like I said, yeah, consistency. I think that's just the main thing. It'll get you pretty far.
Awesome. No, that's perfect, Robyn. I love it. And just thank you so much for taking time to come on. I loved having you. Your story is awesome. And just I'm excited to continue to follow your wellness journey and everything you're doing. So just thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I really enjoyed talking with you today.
Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you loved my conversation with Robyn. She's doing so much amazing work, so be sure to give her a follow on social media to keep up with everything that she's been working on. You can find her social media links that we talked about in the episode in the show notes, but you can also find them on my website as well at drkaseyjohnson.com. That's DrKaseyJohnson.com. Click on the Listen tab. Then from there, you'll be able to see all of the past guests that have come on the Unlock Wellness podcast, read a little bit about each guest, and be able to click on their social media links, websites, all of that. So all of Robyn's information can be found on my site as well. If you guys loved today's episode with Robyn, be sure to jump onto iTunes, subscribe, and write a review. It really helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate all of the feedback and support. Also, be sure to check out patreon.com/drkaseyjohnson to learn more about how you can support the Unlock Wellness podcast. Thank you guys so much again for tuning into today's episode. I hope you loved it. I hope it inspires you. And most importantly, I hope you take action.